This is a game on Malinovka Encounter in the T71, the Tier 7 US light tank. It's kind of like the Bulldog. It's a little bit quicker, more agile, but it has a little bit less firepower. Still a really, really good tank. And I just wanted to show a couple things on this. I wanted to talk a little about Malinovka Encounter and also about certain avenues that you can exploit. So as in most of the maps with the light tank, the first thing that we're going to do is try to get someplace where we can figure out what their early dispersion is going to be like. You know, how many guys are they sending south? How many guys are they sending hill? They've sort of added this back alley to the back of the A line hill. It's like this depression back here. So it's more difficult to spot the guys on the A line, but you can still spot guys coming in through here if you go forward far enough. And so normally on standard mode, what we'll do is we'll go up to this area over here. You can't quite make it that far in encounter mode because of where the spawns are at. But you can spot a number of guys from going to this forward area here, which is where one of the places that you used to go in the before the map was redesigned originally. And so this KV4 is going up on near the roadside, which means that he's really exposed to fire. But the guys on the back lane have much more sheltered, like that KV5. He can't really be shot by any of those guys there. He could potentially be shot by artillery, but that's about it. And then we notice that they have a super Pershing coming along the bottom lane over here as well. And so this early going, a lot of it is just being a little bit patient. Usually on encounter mode, you have a lot of tanks that go up the hill. So you wait to see what they can see. We know that they haven't sent anything at least immediately over in this area here, but that didn't stop them from sending them back along the A line and then up the 4 over there. And so we're lighting more and more of their tanks up on the hill as well, which is usually on the encounter mode where most of the fighting occurs. The cap area is down here. It's really difficult for either side to cap, so that's usually not too much of an issue. We do spot one of their T28s over on this side over here. And you see how we're sending some guys across over on that side, so they haven't met any resistance yet or not. So they have a gap, right? We know that they sent a lot of guys over here. They might have some guys over here, we're not sure yet, but we know that they don't have anything over here, so it's something that we're paying attention to. And this super Pershing is moving forward now. And so it shouldn't be too difficult to take this guy out. There's KV3 here. I'm just waiting for my reload. And the KV3 just needs to do 1 shot of damage. I don't have a very good shot here. So I'm going to save my last shot, and because I'm not exactly sure if this KV3 is going to be able to kill this super Pershing or not. And he finally does. Okay, and then we look on the other side of the map, like the C1, D1 area. We see our guys have pushed through, like the RD. So this is interesting because for me, it means that there's this gap through here, right? These guys are likely to be paying attention to those guys over on the west. The guys on the hill can't really spot me, so I can push over here really easily and get behind the T28 and or the guys on the hill fairly easily, which is what we're going to do. And so they have their Roomba over here as well. All of those guys are facing the other direction though.
Enemy armor is damaged. Ready to fire. Penetration. Enemy armor is destroyed. We've lost a track.
And so that allowed us to get into this sort of gap over here, and this is going to be an interesting because I'll be able to light these guys over here for these guys to shoot, presuming that they survive. And I'll also be able to get shots up on the hill from down here as well. You don't want to YOLO here too early, especially if you don't have any actual fire support there. But since we do have guys to the west, we basically have these guys in a bad position right now.
It's a trap! Enemy is hit. Enemy armor is hit.
And then pretty much once we've come through here, it cleaned up a lot faster than I thought it would, but that's always a good thing. And so we've basically isolated them now all just up on the hill, so it's pretty easy to just run up there and clean up the rest. And so the T95, most of their 9s are up on the hill, and well, all of them were, and they're all still alive. But we've basically whittled them down enough that it doesn't really matter. And our guys here are still a little bit reluctant to push, which is fine. You know where the T95 is, you know where the 704 is, and so we just spotted the T28 Proto. Thing about the T28 Proto is it doesn't actually have a full turret. It's only got like a 270-degree turret, so once you get behind him, he actually can't turn his turret enough to shoot you. And then it's all just turreted tank destroyers left, and so that's something that light tanks should feast on. If you reload in time. I'm amazed that that T71 actually survived that, because he's just like driving around in front of the 704 for a while. And then just the T95. So I guess the important thing that I wanted to sort of point out, one is that, you know, the cap really isn't that important, but you probably could have been able to figure it out on yourself. But also, look for a gap, particularly if you're in a light tank or a fast medium and things like that. Look for gaps in the defense that you can exploit. Like when those guys pushed up on the west, it wasn't like they had an overwhelming force. I mean, they had a tier 7 medium. It was the other T71, and there was like another, you know, I forget what it was, but another slightest fast tank. And so even though they didn't have a lot of firepower there, just they occupied the attention, and I basically used that window to get through the middle to a position where I could do where I could be even more of an annoyance. And that's really what you're looking to do with a lot of these faster tanks. So highly recommended. So anyways, the other thing I want to say is, so I went over here for early lights. You could also go over here to this sort of E7 area. You can also go over to this hill area over here, or I think it's like right around here. There's some trees over here that you can go through as well. So like any of those places, you can sort of light most of the early deployment and try to figure out where they are. And what you want to be able to do ideally is prevent guys from coming across here and getting up underneath, because just like, you know, when we made it to over here, we're going to be an annoyance to both the guys on the hill and the guys over here, and it's the same thing on the other side. It's a little bit less, but once they get over to this side, right, they're really an annoyance for these guys over here, and to a little less of an extent to these guys over here. So that's something that you want to be able to sniff out early on if you can, because guys come, particularly going across the water. Like you'll notice that I actually went across the upper plateau, and 9 out of 10 times that's safer to do than going through the water. They basically made going through the water much more hazardous now. Well, technically they made going over the top much safer now, just because of the way that they reworked that ridgeline. So it's usually better to take that if you can, and that's just assuming that you know the guys up on the hill aren't already firing at you. Alright, and so if we look at the stats, it pretty much reflects that. We ended up getting a boatload of experience because we got some early lights, which led to damage like that KV-4 going up the hill, the T28 on the little sniper hill on the middle of the map, and the Roomba as well. So we were able to get a lot of spawning damage from that. We were also able to actually get a decent amount of our own damage from the Super Pershing, from the T28 Proto, the T95. You know, a lot of it is once you get to the flank of of the team, you're going to get a lot of easy shots, and it's just a matter of making sure that those count. And that's really all that you're focused on, because the gun on the T71 isn't the most threatening thing in the world, but if you're able to flank people, if you're able to utilize your speed, get through gaps to get behind people, then all of a sudden it becomes really dangerous. And so we ended up actually doing more damage than anyone else on the team just because of that. And not a single one of those shots, other than on that T37, were into the front of another tank. They were all sneaky shots. So that's something to keep in mind whenever you play a light tank with more of a pew pew gun. Anyhow, hope that was helpful, and thanks for watching.